Without any further ado, we have a phenomenal speaker next on our line-up. And our speaker is Dirk van der Walt. And he is the co-founder of webuycars.co.za. And this is a revolutionized business. It's something that is really stand out, and how they actually individually sell cars and buy cars. So with a people-centered leadership, I think to be honest with you, that approach I've seen just meeting with you the other day as well, to me something that really stood out is that people-centeredness and really wanting to touch and change people's lives. As we've seen together, same as with Dr. Keith as well, and pretty much everybody that stood up here today. It's about touching and changing people's lives. But with a people-centered leadership approach, he emphasizes innovation and customer service and creating a transparent and secure car sales process that prioritizes customer satisfaction. So really, without any further ado, please let's put our hands together for Dirk van der Walt.
A couple of years ago, Dr. Keith Fairhurst, a friend of mine, in this very same lecture room, might have been the one next to this one, but I believe it was this one. He was waiting for everybody to settle in, and he was standing over here, I think it was. He was standing like this, and he was staring at his feet. And after a long time, he lifted his head, and he started speaking from the heart. Amongst other things, he was speaking about ambidextrous leadership. And later in my talk, I'm going to touch on ambidextrous leadership and the importance of ambidextrous leadership. That talk of his made a huge difference in my life, because it showed me that there's really a place for me in business leadership, for me as well, with my weird personality and all, you know? So he was staring at his feet, and it made me think a bit. And you may be as professional and as accomplished and as knowledgeable and as experienced as you want to be. You may be the most experienced, most knowledgeable, most highly qualified person in the room, but as me and Keith discussed fairly recently, even the highest qualified, even the best people have feet of clay and do stupid things. So that gives me comfort if I'm standing in front of an intimidating audience who might be a little bit judgmental. You all have feet of clay. My main challenge today, standing in front of you, is I'm thinking the whole time, the stuff I'm going to tell you is axiomatic. It's beyond mundane. I can write you down 5 sentences quickly, and we can be done. You can take it home. There's it, your 5 sentences. But how can I say something to you, speak to you? How can I reach you deep in your heart to make an actual, real difference in what's going to transpire when it comes? There must be a good expression, English expression for when the chips are down, you know? When it comes to the push. And I will explain to you a little bit later when that's going to happen. All right? We all have feet of clay. The Apostle Paul mentioned something about the things that I want to do, I can't do, and the things I don't want to do, those are the things I do. So in my mind's eye, I see Moses coming down the mountain with 2 tablets. The one is a clay tablet, the feet of clay, and the other is a marshmallow tablet. Now, I don't know if you know the marshmallow experiment. You do know the marshmallow experiment, so you see where I'm going. The little kids were tested with a marshmallow in front of them, and it's something like a 70-year span experiment where they apparently proved that those kids who had the self-control, the self-discipline, not to take the marshmallow and to leave it there so that they can get a second marshmallow, they were more successful later on in life. How does that tie in with I'm going to get to self-leadership. Self-leadership. self-discipline. The things I want to do, I do not, and the things I don't want to do, I do. Self-discipline. So at the end of the day, unfortunately, ladies, gentlemen, again, you're going to be confronted with your own self-discipline, which is unfortunately a harsh truth. Now, I want to try and show to you that there's a different way. The different way is, instead of practicing your self-discipline and trying harder to do the things that you know you're supposed to do and not to overspend, not to engage in silly money lending and all those things, there's a different way. And that different way is to become a different person. And it might sound silly to you, but what I'm telling to you is the ultimate truth. The ultimate truth is to become a different person, then you will be acting differently. You'll get a new pair of eyes. A new pair of eyes. And then you will see things differently. They say birds of a feather flock together. They also say it takes one to see one. So I stand in front of my new buyers groups. They come in groups of about 10 every week, new buyers and new salespeople. Then when they get their new iPad and they get their company clothes and everything, it's their first day at work. I have a little talk with them of an hour, which is called the onboarding and engagement talk that I have with them. And then when they are done about 3-4 weeks later, then I have the managing your personal finance talk with them. And I'm tempted to have the same talk with you just now quickly, but I won't. But the thing, what I tell them that when you change, if you get exposure, if you gain in exposure and experience and knowledge and reading, because you're a very inquisitive and curious person, you will grow and you will change and you will adapt new ways. And in the process, you will gain a new pair of eyes and you would walk differently and talk differently. And guess what's going to happen then? The people who walked that path before, the people who have grown in that direction, the people who have become more emotionally mature, the people who have become professional and experienced, they're going to notice you. I tell them, then they're going to notice you. And you yourself are going to get a new pair of eyes. You're going to be looking at stuff differently. You're going to approach things differently. And that is what I want for you. You think you're going to succeed. The mundane things I'm going to tell you is not to engage in debt, to avoid debt at all costs. Stay within your means. Live what's the right word? Pay yourself a modest salary. And don't use more of your money than what you need. Pay yourself a modest salary, irrespective of the income of your company. Even if your company earns millions, just stick to your allocated salary that you and your partners allocated to yourselves. And I'm teaching this to the salespeople and to the buyers because what's going to happen is they're going to blackmail themselves to perform better and earn more commission. So they're going to buy the Golf GTI and then he's got no choice but to perform. And I warn them against that and many, many other things. So the moral of what I'm trying to say to you is that good financial discipline in your business, not eating the marshmallow, not having feet of clay, not living up to the Jones, not exchanging your choices, your freedom, your optionality, which is your power, not exchanging that for the Ferrari or the Golf GTI or the camping equipment. Because what you do then is you take all your optionality, all your power, the choices you had, and you crystallize it to those 1 or 2 options that you park in your garage. And then you will experience what's called buyer's remorse. But you won't tell your friends. No. That is the crux of the whole speech. I might as well stop here and now. What are the chances? You're going to grow your business. You're remembering what we said. You're going to exercise good financial discipline and all that. And then you grow a successful business after a couple of years, like we did. Stash all the money away in the bank. You have all your optionality, all your power. You're sitting there ready to pounce because you've got cash reserves. You survived 2008 like we did without the growth curve turning negative. Well, it was virtually horizontal, but we survived 2008 before the growth curve came down to horizontal and start picking up again. You're going to build that business, and it's going to be successful like that. You're going to have the cash reserves. You're going to drive your mundane little car while your friend has the cool car, and you're going to be still staying in your little flat or whatever, even though you've got millions in the bank like we did. You know, you're going to live conservatively. And that is the way you build a real successful business, by retaining your optionality and your choices. And you become robust and anti-fragile. Then you draw attention. People know, the industry know. They see you. And they come and say hello. And like in our case, some of the very best guys, the most wonderful guys, the most wonderfully culture-matched guys that you can come imagine, they come in and they romance you, and they want to have a merger with you, or they want to acquire you. Why? Because you have no debt. Because your balance sheet is just begging to be leveraged. How would I be able to convince you to say no? So what we believe in, just to share this with you quickly, we believe in organic growth. So I wish I could sell to you the idea, but it's difficult and it would be too long to explain to you what exactly it is that I mean with organic growth. Because what happens is they say to you, yeah, we know, we hear what you're saying about not wanting to do debt and not wanting to do leverage. We hear you. But think of all the business you're missing out on. Think of all the business, you could be there. All you have to do is to leverage your balance sheet, get the loan, and then you can open 1, 2, 3 new warehouses and 3,000 more units to your stock. Think what that's going to do for your turnover. Think what that's going to do for your income. So, what I want to do, I don't do, and what I don't want to do, I do. And that is most probably what 80% of you is going to do, because you're going to fall for it. You're going to do it. Oh well, many people, especially the bankers and those people, they're going to say, yeah, but you know, it makes sense. As long as you do it conservatively. You must just understand what I mentioned to you. When you make use of that opportunity, when you take that money and you buy something, you exchange your freedom and your optionality, your choices, your power. You've made the exchange and you parked it in your garage. As long as you don't touch it, it is there. And you can deal with unforeseen crises on the one hand, and on the other hand, if there's an opportunity that comes along, especially in a period like 2008, if you are the guy that's sitting on the cash, that's your time. When the crisis hits all your competitors and you're sitting on cash, that's your opportunity. Then you're going to be harvesting. We need to think about that. Okay, so in We Buy Cars, we were really seriously debt averse, and it paid well for us. It worked out very well for us. We are still standing 25 years later. There's no phrase that I hate so much as the one that says, sweat the asset. I don't like that one. And I don't like it when people tell you about closing the jaws or opening the jaws. Yeah, that's the other one, opening the jaws. But But it's a good principle, and it is true. All these things there's a case to be made for all of those things. There's a good case to be made for it. But as what you'll see a little bit later on, you'll see why it's not so simple. In any case, so I told you about our relationship with debt, I told you about leverage, I told you about cash reserves, and I told you about organic growth. What I haven't told you about yet is growing people. Growing people. Now, the reason why we strongly resisted growing faster than what we can grow the people, we could instantly build new warehouses and quickly recruit a whole bunch of new people, quickly, you know. But that's highly risky, number one. But the real problem why we don't do it is because it takes time to grow people into your company culture. It takes time to find the right people that are a real culture match for your company. And that's where the real danger lies. The real danger lies in your recruitment and your recruitment philosophy and your skill at recruitment, your resourcefulness, your innovation in obtaining the right culture fit people for your company. That's where your danger lies. And that is why I personally address every new group of buyers that come in and every group of salespeople who come in, and I lecture them, not lecture, but I relate, I share with them what is our company culture. And what do I speak about? I speak about our culture of candor, reciprocity, practicality, pragmatism, and common sense. Common sense is not common at all. So, and I also speak about honesty. I speak about honesty and I speak about truthfulness. Truthfulness is at the heart of all of this. I spoke to you about self-discipline. I said to you that eventually it's going to boil down, or eventually it's going to challenge your self-discipline. And that brings us to leadership. I studied up and I read up a bit about leadership. And then it also comes back to the part of self-leadership. That's the one we don't like so much, because that's going to play you off against your weaknesses. That's going to challenge you where it hurts. It's your self-leadership. You cannot lead someone else if you can't lead yourself. Not nice to hear, nie lekker om te hoor nie, maar it's the truth. However, if you are dead honest and truthful about your shortcomings, I believe that gives you a license to lead other people beyond your own capabilities, I think. We by Cars, may I say, is extremely most proud of the way that we have empowered people. We've empowered many people to become managers and leaders in ways that they never dreamed of. We've got some young people who were promoted to jobs that scared us as much as them. And, you know, they say, you know, set it free, and if it comes back to you, or whatever, you know, they swim. You throw them in on the deep side, and sometimes they swim. You know, we've got some good swimmers. Yeah. So it's about self-leadership. It's about servant leadership. The first guy who wrote the first book about servant leadership was a guy, surname is Green. I can't remember his name, but his surname was Green. Yeah. So servant leadership, and in that regard, I would like to mention Wimbrand Pretorius. We always stood outside of our industry, and for some reason, our industry weren't so much interested in us, and we weren't so much interested in them in the beginning. It's only later on, when we grew larger, that our paths really crossed. But there in the beginning, where we didn't have much to do with our own industry, and we met Wimbrand Pretorius. And that was the first person in our industry that we met that we felt that we could associate with. And he's just finished writing his book, At the Steer. I think is the name of the book. I can't remember. And I was literally tearing up as I met Brand Pretorius at I think it was a Westbank year-end function or something like that. And I greeted Brand Pretorius. He's the industry icon of the motor industry in South Africa. He still drives his Porsche 911 today, white one. And I was tearing up, and I said to him, Brand, we share your values. I believe what you believe, and so on and so on. You know, and he saw that I was very emotional about it all. And then later on, a friend and confidant of ours in Westbank, he introduced us, he arranged a date for us with Brand Pretorius, and we met close to his house at a breakfast, and he arranged for Chris Rain, our CFO, to become our CFO at that time, which was very, very meaningful, even up to today for us. In any case, so servant leadership. There's a whole speech, there's a whole study that I can give you on servant leadership. So when it comes to self-leadership, servant leadership, and ambidextrous leadership that I discussed with you earlier, ambidextrous leadership, Keith can give you a most wonderful study on ambidextrous leadership. It's a big, big topic. So a lot of the things that I'm touching on quickly here are actually topics that you can spend a whole hour talking about. But I'm not going to talk about ambidextrous leadership and explore and exploit and those things, creativity and innovation and curiosity, which plays a huge role in the way that we grow our businesses. I can talk a lot about that. Now I would like to get to a different side of the coin called bureaucracy. I don't know if you guys have ever heard about Purnell's iron law of bureaucracy. We are all mesmerized by the magnetism of certain aspects of attaining a successful business and a profitable business, the magnetism of business, and the different roles and the different ways it can enhance. That magnetism can enhance you. But the iron law of bureaucracy states that the person, the employee who serves the bureaucracy will always win out over the employee who serves the original purpose of the company. You can go and read it, Google it. Purnell's iron law of bureaucracy. The employee, the person who serves the purpose of the bureaucracy, will always win out over the person who serves the purpose of the original company. That's a death sentence, in other words. So what it's basically saying that once you go bureaucratic, then you're going to lose your innovative spirit, you're going to lose your curiosity and your innovation. Not necessarily. And it's a process that happens very slowly. So again, it's a difficult one. You know, people will say, no, man, it's not. We have a very healthy bureaucracy. Fine. Okay, so maybe you've got a very healthy bureaucracy. Now I get to the core of what I'm actually here to say, aside from the financial issues. I want to introduce to you, I just want you to run your mind around and I'm not far from finished. There's this thing called transformational leadership, and that stands across from transactional leadership. Bureaucracy is transactional leadership. Transactional leadership happens with KPIs. A hamster in the treadmill, that is what you will become. Because you have to fulfill your part of the transaction. We pay you, and we pay you a basic, and we pay you a commission, and you run in the treadmill. If you run fast, you'll get more pay. If you run slower, you'll get less pay. So it's carrot. We put a STI and an LTI in the form of a carrot in front of your nose. And on the backside, we hit you with a stick if you fall off, you know. So it's carrots and sticks. Carrots and sticks and KPIs. That, my dear friends, is the slow and tedious, painful death of innovation and creativity and vision and inspiration. Those are harsh words. Maybe you don't really realize just exactly how harsh those words are. It's very harsh words. Because that's most of business out there. Most of it. Growing organically, people first, culture first. But what bothers me is, there on your phone, on your YouTube channel, there's Brendan Burchard, the best motivator in the world, and he's a most wonderful person. He's a powerful speaker. He's got powerful messages. There's Jim Collins, just like Brendan Burchard. He's also for free. He's also on your phone. You've got Brendan Burchard there. Probably close on 300 videos of Brendan Burchard. Most uplifting conversation that you can imagine. There's jimcollins.com on your phone. You probably don't even know about it, even though he's one of the most prolific writers in business philosophy. I don't know a single person, well, I know one or two, who now and then refer to Jim Collins. Jim Collins has left us with an extremely rich inheritance of business philosophy and business strategy. All you have to do is to open the bloody thing and read it. But you'd rather pay the university. That is why I said to Keith, we have to make really sure that the people who come here, we don't want a situation where a business just sends a block of people here and they come and sit here and be a judgmental audience. You know? We want to sit here where there is harmony in the understanding between us and you, where we have something that you really want. We want that harmony, we want that resonance, so that our message will resonate with your need in your ears and bring a new life in your mindset, in your heart, so that you can experience the things that will set you apart in the long run. Not park your options and your decisions and your optionality, crystallize it into one single thing that you park in your garage. But that you retain your options and your freedom and your power with financial freedom, as opposed to indebting yourself. What is success? Success is not Elon Musk. Success is not Jeff Bezos. Success is you success is just you accomplishing what you set out to do. If you accomplish what you set out to do, then you are successful. One last thing. Me and a friend, very recently, we were standing in Houston, Texas, staring at the city skyline. Not too long ago, we were in Tel Aviv. And standing there in Houston, Texas, staring at the city skyline, I asked my friend an unexpected question. I said to him, "What don't you see?" And he laughed. He said, "What do you mean, what I don't? How could I possibly know what I don't see?" I said to him, "There's no economic growth in Houston, or in my view, there's little economic growth in Houston because I don't see virtually no construction cranes on the skyline. It's just a normal city skyline without any construction. You don't see construction cranes. Whereas in Tel Aviv, you would probably spot the odd 60, 70, if not more, construction cranes on the city skyline. The point I'm trying to make is, how do you see what's not there? How do you see what's missing from your picture? And that is what I want to leave you with. I want to leave you with that. The moment someone puts something on the table, the moment someone presents you with a storyline, the moment someone tells you why you must leverage, that's an anchor in your brain, in your mind, in your perception. And there's no one there to put something else on the table, and you can't see what's not on the table. Because there's no arbiter for that. There's no person to point it out. There's no person to say, "But I will offer more in your car," or "I'll offer whatever." in We Buy Cars, our buyers approach the client and say to him, okay, we will offer 50,000 on the car. If the buyer doesn't close the deal that weekend, the customer's best friend tells him, oh no, that's absurd. Your car is at least worth 80,000. What is this 50,000? It's at least worth 80,000. They change the customer's mind, and you are not there to tell the customer, but will your friend pay that amount? It's easy to say. It's easy for him to run his mouth and to convince you that your car is more, and you rather go and try, and then eventually you come back to We Buy Cars because that family member confused the person by telling him what he thinks it's worth, while it's the man in the arena who's standing there with the money ready to buy your car. There's some business people in the audience who are in much the same situation, much the same, where you have to convince the client, have to make the client an offer, convince them of the value, and they would rather pass because they saw it advertised for more elsewhere. And then you have to convince the client, my value add is I offer you immediacy, I offer you convenience, I offer you safety. That's my value. My value add, my unique selling proposition. You know me, we're a known brand, and we can help you right here, right now, and you have your money in your account inside 2 minutes. My friends at UB Leisure, other friends of mine, same boat. I'm just trying to illustrate to you that what I mentioned earlier, it takes one to see one. Birds of a feather flock together. You're going to get a new pair of eyes as you get more exposure, as you grow in maturity. You walk different, you talk different, and those who were already there, they will start seeing you, and you will start seeing them, and you will start looking different at life. Please avoid debt. Thank you very much.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much, Dirk. I think, wow, like I sit here and I think to myself as well, like looking at the way you started off was the story about Keith standing backwards, looking at his feet, and then taking that whole thing down to speaking about where we go, what we see, where we look at, and what we are looking at now. Just yesterday, I went through to Rosebank with my mother-in-law, and she needed to go to Garmin to go and get a new strap for a watch. And as we arrived there to the reception, they tell us, okay, so you need to just go, here's your ticket number, and you need to just go second office on your left. So the way that I walked was looking for the second office on my left. So my eyes was looking for the second office on the left. And my mother-in-law's eyes was on the floor, looking at every step she's taking to make sure that she doesn't fall. And if I did what she did, I wouldn't have tripped. Because there was this big yellow sign warning me that the floor is now becoming a ramp. And she says, oh, you must look where you're walking. I said, I am. But I'm looking at where I'm going. She's looking at where she's walking. And it's all about perception, and that's also exactly that. It's like, where are you going? What are you looking at? And what are you going to allow yourself to start changing in your business and where you're going to? So make sure you are looking. Sometimes we need to look down and we need to look at our feet. But there's sometimes we need to look up and we need to look at where we are going. But thank you so much for that. Appreciate that, Dirk.